Welcome to Kcse English. In today's episode, we are going to continue our discussion of the play entitled A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen. If you recall, in our first episode, we looked at the approaches to the study of this play. We also touched a bit generally on the themes in this text. Today we will go deeper into appreciating the various thematic concerns and try to apply these themes to our environment. With me to study and to discuss this play is Madam Brenda Midika. Madam Brenda Midika is a seasoned teacher and well versed with the setting of exams in this country. Welcome.
Thank you, Professor. Yes, last time we were talking about the whole approach to teaching literature to our teachers. And today, as you were saying, that we are going to discuss the themes from Adolf's House. Professor, please take us through some of the themes from Adolf's House.
Thank you very much, Madam. We noted last time that in appreciating a text, we need to first of all look at the main issues that the author wanted to discuss in that play. In fact, a play or a novel is actually a problematization of a number of issues that the author would like to discuss and perhaps give a way of solving some of these problems in society. When I look at A Doll's House, I note a number of issues that Henrik Ibsen wanted to bring to the fore. First and foremost, I see in this book an overriding issue that the author wanted to bring out, the issue of the role of women in society.
Okay.
The second issue, and I have about 7 or so from my own reading. Remember, every reader can come with his or her own, issues, the way he or she perceives them. But in my view, the first issue is the role of women in society. Secondly, the play also deals with our obligation to the family. What is our obligation to our mothers and our siblings? The third issue that I've actually noted in this play is the issue of appearances versus reality. In most cases, the appearance seems to actually not relate to the reality. In other words, appearances lie.
True.
And so this is something that we need to also discuss as we deal with this play. Then, of course, there is the other issue which I just simply called deception. The ability of people to deceive others. Whether they are doing it because of a positive motive or a negative motive, the point is there is an element of deception in this play. The other issue, and this is the fifth issue that I note in this play, is the idea of patriarchal structures and their effects on women. Ibsen seems to be dealing with a society that is built on patriarchal structure. As I pointed out last time, we need to always apply this information to our own society. We note that there is an element of patriarchy in that society. we also have our own patriarchal structures. So to make this play relevant to our society, we need to bring it down, to look at the structures here in this society and look at the same structures in our society and how they affect our women in society. The sixth theme that I've noted in this play is the whole idea of emancipation of women. What does it take to free women from the bondage of patriarchy? How can women free themselves from patriarchal structures that limit them and therefore they are unable to bring out their full potential? And finally, another issue that I've noted in this play is the issue of societal norms or morals versus the individual. So society has certain norms, society has certain values, and we need to see how these values affect the individual within the society. So again, I note in this play that there are, societal values or norms. And there is a sense in which they actually affect the individual within this society. And that is why I think at this particular time, we can now engage these 7 issues systematically so that we open up the play for the learner to actually appreciate the issues here. If I may ask, therefore, in view of the fact that we mentioned that the play talks about the role of women in society, how can you bring out this issue in this play?
It's very important for the students to learn how to look at the text and even as the themes that have been summarized here. Now, you're talking about the role of the women. We want to look at the women characters in the text and what do they do. Look at Nora. She is a wife, she is a mother, but remember, she is also taking care of the husband. So, not only is she expected to take care of the children, of the father, of her parents, but to also take care of her husband. And so what we are learning is women are just caregivers, you see, to their families. They are caregivers, and society expects them to fulfill those obligations. Failure to do this, it comes to the woman that she has failed in providing for the family. You look at Helma. Helma leaves every morning to go to work. But remember, Nora is left in the house, just as many women are left in the house to take care of the families, to look at what the kids are going to eat. And when the husband is not feeling well, she is the one supposed to run after that and look and take care of the husband's health. This takes us to the point whereby we see that apart from just playing parenting roles, she is also playing the wifely role. But again, this wifely role goes ahead to ensure that there is money. She has to provide money so that the husband's health is taken care of. And that is why she ends up getting into going to Krogstad and borrowing some money from Krogstad so that she could take Helma for treatment.
Now, I think what you've said is very important, especially when it comes to the role of women in society. I note that at one stage, you see how she has built a very good rapport with the children.
Yes.
They even play hide and seek. And yet we do not see the husband coming closer to actually engaging the children and actually playing with them and being with them.
Yes.
In fact, there is no moment where we see the husband with the children. So the whole role of bringing up the children is actually on Nora's hands.
Exactly.
But more significantly, I think you have brought out another issue that is very important. The issue of taking care of the husband.
Yes.
But in some cases, And in the case we have in this play, it is just not taking care of the husband. Taking care of the husband and appreciating his weaknesses, so that you do not want to care to the level of bringing down his dignity. So there is actually some kind of weighing game where you want to borrow money to take care of this man, but you know for sure that there are certain things, of course psychological, that you don't want to disrupt in this man, and therefore you'll go out of your way, sacrifice, borrow money, forge a signature in order to get that money, just to make sure that this man is safe and has been taken care of. I think that's very important.
Professor, do you mean to say that women are the ones who are upholding the image of the man in the society?
There is a sense in which actually this comes out in this play, that the woman is taking care of this man while at the same time trying to preserve the public image of this particular man.
Yes.
And that is what Nora does actually in her borrowing of the money, in doing all those things. It was basically to preserve the image, the dignity of that man. But is it appreciated?
No, it is not. I would say it is not. And maybe that's what many women go through. Maybe if we take it to the whole society, they're raising children, they are playing wifely roles, they are upholding the image of the man. But the question you're asking, is it really appreciated?
That is a question that we need to ask, and I think this is a question that should actually come out in a classroom situation, when we actually bringing the student to actually start thinking about this role that women play. But there is also something else, Mrs. Linde. You note that she also sacrifices a lot.
It's true.
She actually gets married to a man whom she did not love, specifically to take care of her siblings and her mother. What do you say about that?
She comes out, yet there's something else she is also seeking. You see, even as women are sacrificing and giving it their all, there's also something that they need to have fulfilled in themselves, from what I could read from the text.
Now, there is another theme that I mentioned at the beginning, that theme of obligation, family obligation.
Yes.
But shed some light on it.
I would say that our obligation to the family, look at Mrs. Lind. She has an obligation to taking care of her siblings and the mother. And that is why she even sacrifices her life to get married, so that she has enough to provide for her siblings, you see. So again, what is it? As siblings, as parents, as children, what are we supposed to do to our family? Look at Nora. She has an obligation to her family. We are talking about supporting the children, supporting the husband, being there for her father who is also ailing. And so all this, it is up to the parent, it is up to the people who are there to take care of their families, you see. Even now, looking at it in the current society, we are expected to take care of our parents. It's an obligation that we are given.
Now, just before we conclude this episode, I think it is important for us to focus on appearances versus reality.
I would really want to know more about that.
Appearances versus reality. What you see is not exactly what it is. Basically, that is it. When you see, say, a woman, soft, really looks like she cannot harm a fly, and she looks naive and so on, that could be deception.
Okay.
As we normally say, you can't judge a book by its cover. And that is what we see in this play. When we encounter Nora, she comes through as naive. In fact, she's actually Elma's doll, so to speak.
Yes, yeah.
But as the play progresses, we see a totally different person. And so there is a sense in which really the element of appearance versus reality comes through from this particular character.
And maybe just a question, would this appearance versus reality apply to the male characters in this text?
Yes, there is a sense in which what you see is not exactly what you finally encounter. If, for example, you get to Krogstad, initially we encounter a person who does not show the soft emotions that we see him exhibiting later on.
Yeah, true.
So there is a sense in which there is something you can get at the initial point about a character, and then you realize that no, this is not really the character that this particular person is.
Yes.
And the same applies to Helma. You note that this is a forceful person who is mistreating, sort of mistreating this lady Nora, so to speak. You see that he is domineering and so on. But towards the end, Elma is completely subdued,
Exactly.
in a sense. In fact, that strength, that power simply dissipates.
True.
And we see him begging. And at that moment is when you can actually see a man is completely subdued. So what do we get out of, that particular relationship, especially when we look at the relationships between men and women? What do we get out of it? We get something out of it, which is very important. We come to understand that there is a sense in which a woman can actually hide her true self, perhaps just to massage a man's ego. But in the final analysis, when really, as we say, the rubber meets the road, then the woman's self emerges, and then you realize this was a totally different character I was dealing with. I thought I was dealing with a cat. I'm dealing with a lioness. And that is it. Perhaps you may want to just add something small on what we have discussed before we wind up the episode.
Yes, as students, it's important for us to really understand the text so that we can be able to come up with very clear illustrations to show our understanding of the text. And as we have discussed, that Henrik Ibsen's interest is to give us a few issues. For example, the way we've talked about the role of the women, what is our obligation to the family, and again, as Professor has finished up by telling us that appearance versus reality. How do we appear, and what is the reality in us or around us?
On that note, we come to the end of today's episode of Kcse English, in which we simply focused on 3 of the themes in this text. I want to welcome you to join us again next time when we look at the other themes in this particular play. I want to appreciate Madam Brenda Midika for finding time to discuss these themes with us. I believe you'll join us again to conclude the discussion on themes in this play. On behalf of my crew, Neka and Pambi, I would like to invite you to like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel so that you receive the continuous updates of the kind of videos that we are bringing to you. Thank you very much. I am called Igara Kabaji.